So hi, welcome. We're in the next session of Make It Your Own. Hope you've been enjoying the series so far. And I'm here with Richard from Cambridge, and also is the founder of Mindfulness in Schools project and co-creator of .B.
Hi,
So
Faiy. Lovely to be here again.
lovely to have you here. And we've also got Nicci, who works in a special school and has trained in all of MISP's curricula for students. And I was wondering, Nicci, just so that we've got a bit of background on you, perhaps you could share just a little bit about what led you to train in each curricula and perhaps a little bit more about the needs of your students.
Yeah, thanks, Faiy. So I've been working at Brown School for 13 years now. I had a background in academic primary teaching training and also therapeutic play. So that naturally drew me to working in a special needs environment. And I was working with 16 junior pupils on average with complex needs. We worked across 2 classrooms. I had 2 or 3 teaching assistants as support, and looking at developmental levels, having the freedom to really meet them where they're at and differentiate the work. So that's been a real privilege to be able to respond in that way to the children. And I think I was at a point where I was thinking something would be really supportive of empowering the children themselves to regulate their emotions, because as teachers we do the normal techniques and golden times and different incentives, and you would say if they needed a break to go outside, have a break, but they tended not to want to go and leave the group, but could be very dysregulated in class. So I was, just searching for something, and then I stumbled on a workshop, a MISP workshop in Brighton, went along, and I thought, this is it. This is what I'm really looking for to support the children, and when they go out of my care, that they have their toolkit and more skills in able to regulate. So I did train in Pawsby initially, and that was fantastic. However, some of the children weren't able to access it in the sense of where they were at. So I was working with setting things that were more on a sensory level, more on a language-based level. And then I discovered DOTS, which was a preschool program, which had a lot of the material that could be accessible for them. So I added that to my training, and I also had a look at the .B program and had some amazing funding offered to train in that, and was able to offer then extend to some of our older year groups as their sort of PSHE lesson. And so here I am having
Great.
sort of a lot of material to draw from, and because it is a spiraling curriculum, as we know, so it's been a sort of pleasure really to be able to have all of that to work with.
Brilliant. Lovely to hear that. And I'm really glad as well that you can feel for different curricula working for different children that you're working with. Thank you. So I'm going to move into just talking about this lesson, which is, of course, the lesson taking in the good. Do you know, even saying those words, taking in the good, make me feel like just in this moment I'm going to take in some of the good, which definitely includes being here with you and hearing about your experiences. But I wonder, Richard, perhaps if we start with you, just anything around this lesson in terms of how you've changed it or made it work better for the students you work with.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose the only significant change to the script, if you like, that I've done is I taught the great lesson for the first few years that I did it, and I don't use the great part of it anymore. And I was trying to think of why that is, and I think it's because this is the 9th lesson they've had, so they've already done quite a lot of mindfulness. And I just felt the results of that as an exercise were too inconsistent, when what I really needed to do was to bring the class to a place where we could practice and do that gratitude practice, a practice that meant taking in the good. And whereas when you do the food earlier on, you've got the Malteser, which is chocolate, and then you've also got the chili, which is quite a challenge. So you can't be too cool for school for the chili lesson. But with the grape, I just felt that sort of universe in a grape, message, practice, exploration. All it took was for 1 or 2 not to really buy into that. And I didn't really feel like I had the whole class with me. Whereas the Alice Hurt Summer and the Soul Pancake videos so reliably bring them to a place where they're ready to do a practice like that, that I feel there's just a bit less in the balance. But if I just use those, I just find them, I have found them more reliable.
Yeah, thank you. Curious to know, Nicci, if you found it the same or different when you've been having a go at the great practice with your students.
So how I've approached the grape practice is I have brought in the grapes and led it more as a lot of questioning, a lot of inquiry. And I do find that it is an eye-opener for them. It isn't something that they are aware of or have considered. And we're talking about obviously its origins and how it's been transported and the amount of people involved in bringing it. And then here it is in this environment. So we talk about all the whole chain, all the way and or the supermarket, and then I can bring it. So how did it get here? Lots of questioning. So I think that has worked really well. And then I said, yes, I've bought it. I went to the supermarket in my car and oh, thanks, miss. So it's a little bit of spontaneous realization. And so that's nice. And it is, you do feel like it's waking something up for them. And then we can obviously extend that to consider, well, what other things and how are they made and how are they brought to us and how do people service? And it is an awareness raising curriculum. And so I think a lot of inquiry around that. And it may be, yes, not perhaps necessarily a formal practice, but a lot of things can be adapted and made a little bit more accessible or relevant to the children. So it doesn't feel so much as a demand or a pressure to like a product or a grape or a person or anything, but it's opening up opportunities and possibilities. So
That's really lovely to hear, Nicci. I mean, it makes me want to revisit it.
a bit younger as well, perhaps, Richard, as well. That perhaps a little bit more open to things as well. But
how about you, Faiy? How have you found it?
Yeah, no, similar in the sense what you were just saying there, Nicci. You know, a lot of the students that I've done this with have been younger, and I think that's made a little bit of a difference there. But as I mentioned to you both earlier, I also seem to have had lots of classes where any opportunity to eat something in a lesson is going to go down well. So I've not really come across kind of any sort of issues with that practice, but interesting to hear how you've done that though, Nicci, as well, around the sort of making it more inquiry based. I think that's something I'm going to try next time. This is one of the things I'm loving about doing these sessions.
Yeah, it's same here.
Yeah, lovely. Okay, so how about any sort of other elements of the lesson? What have your experiences been, you know, what kind of stands out for you in terms of what works well? Any other changes that you make?
Yeah, just as an opportunity for creativity. I do have more a luxury of time, so I'm given 2 lessons a week, and I can spread out a missed lesson over 2 or 3 weeks, really. So that gives me a lot of opportunity to explore the language and make it more tangible and memorable, and also to make a lot more multi-sensory resources and movement games. We do have our stock sort of games of would you rather, moving from different sides to the room or outside. So there's lots of opportunity when you get regular games and bingo, and we have a guess the word. The children are familiar, so some of them will lead the games now because they're familiar with the games, and that's obviously brilliant for interaction. And
could you explain, Nicci, could you explain that bingo game? Because you shared earlier what I thought that was a brilliant idea that you should share with.
So we've been exploring gratitude and appreciation recently. So I just worked individually, was able to this afternoon actually, I've been doing a bit today of what they like, what they've appreciated, and it was a whole mixture. And I was doing some prompts around food, and maybe I did say things that people have done for you, and we just got little images, and they've made their own bingo cards, and then they will be cut up in a bag and pulled out. And what was nice was having it up whilst we were making it. Other children started to say, "Oh, I didn't know you liked boxing," or "I didn't know you liked this shop, Shady Sport," or and so. Yeah, I think that was really nice in a getting to know each other way. So we use bingo a lot. It's quick fire. It gives an element of competition, which is good to desensitize children to a little bit without the pressure of the investment of time in something and then the competition becoming too stressful. So it's worked well, that one.
I was thinking it really encourages connection as well between people within the group. It's some of that common humanity piece around what we like and sharing those
lots
things
of
that we
dogs
like.
on there, dog breeds, and lots of this. And then someone was saying, "What's that drink?" And oh, it's a fizzy drink. And because there was actually a lot more social communication going on in a creative activity. Yeah.
And then talking about creative activity, Nicci, I was sharing that I'm always reassured because we often have a small number of Chinese speaking kids in the class. And I love the sign as well. I can't put it here. I love the sign. I just think that is such a beautiful, it captures very beautifully what mindfulness is, because it has part of it means, heart. And so I'm sort of always reassured that our materials are correct because they do identify the bits of that symbol. But then I loved your story about this.
Oh, but we paint the symbol. Yeah, we brush paint the symbol. Yeah, with colours, and it's a non-threatening piece of art, and yeah, nice squiggle, and yeah, and we make posters, and some of them we put up for a while, and we can switch them out, and they always have them in their books, and we make scrapbooks and things. So.
And you were just saying before about, and you've just used that word non-threatening, when you were talking before about barriers and how you help them access this. Are you able to say a bit more about that?
Yeah, I think children, especially neurodivergent children that feel maybe extra sensitive, they may have some demand avoidance. There's a lot of demand, even in our school, of going to different rooms, coming at year 7, a lot of people to learn, to know. And I think around thinking about gratitude as a word itself needs to be really stepped back from, and the emotion of it being, you have to be grateful for this, and children that are told to, say thank you, and it becomes a rote or just something that's prompted. And I think the essence of this lesson is to get to the heart of some sort of feeling and emotion around, an awareness around appreciating and turning towards the good to raise happiness, which is what that lovely video has in it. So when we consider working with vulnerable children, they will have potentially a stronger negative bias. They've been through lots of difficult, we often get children that have several placements before they come to us. So they'll be, they will have low self-esteem. And so really, I think going with self-interest is safe, tapping into the connection and working creatively and giving them as much autonomy as possible. And rather than telling, modelling. So, they come running up to the room. Thank you guys for coming over. We get them in a line and we ask them a question as they come in. Thanks for wiping your feet. That's great. And today, wow, Miss Nicole, who's my teaching support assistant. Oh, Miss Nicole has done this in her own time. She's got this prepared for you. Let's thank Miss Nicole. And so it's all just like, it's real, making it real, I think. And obviously not just learned cerebrally.
I was what that brings to mind for me, Faiy, is that I love the wording that they use in the Soul Pancake video, which is bringing to mind somebody who's been influential in your life, and somebody who's made a positive difference. So it doesn't begin with the word gratitude or the idea of thanking. I quite like that, the language they use in that Soul Pancake. And then also, I suppose for me and the children I work with, the trauma sensitivity is more likely to be around if they bring to mind somebody who's passed away recently. And so making sure that they don't feel in the practice that they should be being grateful. It's just when they bring that person to mind, what do they notice? What does that feel like? And really creating space for sadness or negativity, which could emerge from that.
Yeah, thank you. I was just on that. One of the things that I do as part of the setup for that practice is, in a trauma-informed way, is just make sure that they know at the beginning what their options are, where their choices are about where they can place their attention. So if they're noticing that it feels, there's that sadness there or something else there that feels uncomfortable, that they can always choose to open their eyes or to ground by going to their feet or somewhere else in their body that feels comfortable, that they can even move out of the practice if they want to, but as long as they stay seated and allowing everybody else to join in. I think it's such a lovely, beautiful practice. I really do. And I know lots of students who've got so much out of doing that practice. So there's just something there about making them feel safe before they go in so that they can really engage with it.
And then a follow on from that, I don't know whether you've both had things to follow on from it, but what I've been doing is quite tongue in cheek, because I don't really tend to set them homework, but just to do an optional homework, which is when they've brought that person to mind, if that person is still around, if they are going to see them, actually just to blame it on me. I said, say we got mum, we got, or dad or whoever, we've got this weird mindfulness teacher, and he did this exercise with us, and he asked us to bring to mind someone who's been influential, and I just thought I'd say that you were the one I brought to mind, and that's kind of it. That's all they have to say. And it's quite fun because I say that optional, have a go, but usually there's one or two who have, and it's really lovely to see the brightness that comes with the memory of that. Even if they're a little bit too cool for school and don't necessarily want to admit it, you can see that it's there, and that's really lovely, really rewarding as a teacher to see.
Yeah, I've got a really strong memory of a group of year 10 students that I did this with. And then I was like the post person and delivering the letters to people in the school who they'd written them to.
Wow.
And I mean, some of them had chosen family members, so obviously I didn't necessarily see the outcome of that. But some of them had chosen people in school, and so I did the delivering. And that was just a joy, because seeing them read their letters, I obviously said to them they didn't have to read them in front of me, but seeing some of them did read them in front of me, and seeing their reaction to it was just so moving. Because I think as well, as teachers, we don't always get that appreciation expressed to us. Sometimes it might be at the end of a school year, or maybe if we see them in the street afterwards, years later. But it's just so lovely for them to connect in with that as well.
Just to be clear, so I didn't realize, did you, because I don't get mine to write anything. Do you get them to write something like they do in the Salt Pancake video?
I was saying earlier, there are a few extra add-on sessions I sometimes put to this lesson. I think the lesson is being so rich in terms of what you could do next with it. So I have sometimes inserted an extra session where we've done letter writing. Or they could draw. It didn't have to be something that was a written thing. Or they could go and express it to the person. So there was some choice there about what they did with it next. But I've done other things as well. So one of the things that I've done is a kind of gratitude forward thing, where I've asked them to connect in with things, maybe 3 things tomorrow that they think they're going to enjoy doing. And then when they've been in those moments I then bring back in savouring and talk about the science around staying with something for 19 seconds. And that helps you really your brain register the enjoyment in that moment. So inviting them to not rush on past, to just let themselves stay with something. And then in the following session, just got them to feedback what they've noticed about that experience, and that was just also really lovely. So yeah, I'm afraid I've gone really off piste in my follow-on stuff.
Great, I love it.
There are other things as well. 3 good things is another thing that I've really gone into with them, and also from there sometimes a bit of around kindness and pay it forward as well. So yeah.
Nicci, have you got other things in this one following on from the lesson or after the practice?
It's all ongoing, really. I mean, I have a lot of freedom around, which is such a privilege, really, to take it out into the school, to share with other teachers what they're doing. We have a WhatsApp group, so I'll quickly screenshot some of the work and I'll say this class are particularly working on this, and can we just reinforce some language? So that's really key, obviously, just keeping it alive, and as Faiy said, keeping the noticing going. And I had a wonderful word. It was my daughter actually said to me, I was talking to her about this noticing, and she said, oh, the glimmers. And I said, sorry? She said the glimmer moments. And I was like, oh, I love that. So it's now that I say, do it to myself, walking from one area of the school to another. Is there an opportunity to have a glimmer moment, as we do as mindfulness practitioners? And that's the gift of being mindful. So that's what we're doing. We're sharing that gift. So yeah, I think as well, the time of year. I mean, we've got Chinese New Year coming up, so thinking about festivals, thinking about Thanksgiving in America in November. That's really nice to educate culturally across about appreciation. There's different, I think the Chinese tap on the table, the tea tapping, I think it's called, for, so somebody's served them some tea, a couple of taps of the two fingers on the table as a tradition, and the Japanese to bow, and which is a yeah, so that's nice. They're interested. You get some engagement around culture, and that actually, yes, everybody in the world is thanking each other, and this is what we do. And so lots of sort of opportunity to go and, yeah, and bring in as much creativity, I think, as possible, and humor and fun, and yes. Yeah.
I've sometimes just explored, you know, like if it does feel like it's a little bit, you know, sort of nicey-nicey, I've sometimes just explored, well, what's it like if you do something for someone and they don't acknowledge it? Like, what's it like if you help someone out with something and they don't say thank you, they don't acknowledge what you've done? And that can just be a really interesting discussion for just kind of like, oh yeah, no, that doesn't, you know, I feel like I want to really sort of like lay it on that I've helped them with this thing, you know. And that's can be another route into this, where if you feel like it's not landing for any reason with them. Yeah, but mostly I don't find that is the case. And I find, you know, the Alice Hertzoma video very moving, often with students. And as you said before, the soul pancake often really hits home as well.
I love the Alice Hertzoma, because I always say, to begin with, they're like, whoa, she's so old, you know, and there's that kind of instinctive, you know, who is that kind of reaction. And it's lovely to get them to kind of not be ashamed of that reaction, but just to recognize it, and just to acknowledge their natural, you know, their kind of gut feel when they see someone who just looks, for them, just ancient. And then to ask them again what they think after the end of that beautiful, you know, I know about the good things, but sorry, I know about the bad things, but I look for the good things. And there's such beauty in the way she says that. And then for them to witness their own transformation in how they, you know, they did see this person like this, and now they see them like that. Prejudice, preconceptions, you know, open-minded, beginner's mind, all of those things. It's just such a beautiful little clip.
Well, it's just such an invitation to look at things in a different way. I mean, it's such a great lesson on perspective, really, which for me is such a key part of mindfulness practice, is that looking again, you know, looking at things in a different way, giving yourself a bit of space to kind of see the whole picture of something. I know, I really like that. It's a really great one for noticing preconceptions, expectations.
I think that the sort of optical illusion, visual illusions, when there's, like, say, the different ways of looking at things, Faye, you know, when we're looking at the turning towards, you know, we've got a choice. Actually, now we know there's, some people might see one image, you know, the different, and actually now you know there's two, and you can discern the two. Maybe we could work on a sorting activity, or people will have the different responses. But yeah, this is, turning towards physically, look, change, look at this side and look at this side, and this side will lead to some happier feelings if we can notice. So and they are, even just talking about automatic pilot recently, and I thought that one of my students hadn't really, she was doing a lot of colouring, and I know they're listening, but they seem to be doing 100 other things as well. And then she just went, and I said yes, and she said, how do I get out of this automatic pilot? So, you know, it's all being absorbed. And yeah, so, and I said, actually, it's just noticing at first, noticing that you are, you know, not noticing in a way which comes to you. So, yeah. So, yeah.
How lovely. It's just really special, isn't it, when you're a teacher and you get asked a question like that, and you can really feel that what you're teaching is having an impact, you know. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you both. Really.
Thank you both. Yeah.
About this session, and just other ideas as well for things that people can be doing. I just thought I'd mention, just because it's been launched, is that you can share your ideas with us, and there is an email address that you can send your ideas to, which is research@mindfulnessinschools.org. And it doesn't have to be for the whole curricula, it can just be for part of a lesson, or it could be for other follow-on activities that you do following lessons. And we'd love to hear from you. So please do send your ideas in. And if you're a Hub member, you'll get to see everyone else's ideas. So Yeah, I hope that these videos inspire you, but also I'm sure you've got great ideas to share as well with us all. So anyway, thank you, Nicci. Thanks for being our special guest on this.
Well, thank you. I'm very grateful that you've asked me to come in.
It's fantastic.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you.
Okay, bye both. See you.
Bye. Bye.